want to move to the Middle East. You know you want to move to the United Arab Emirates. But are you going to work in a private school? What's about a public school? They're now all talking about charter schools. Like, what school will be the best school for me? Where am I going to get the best benefits? Calm down. That's exactly how I felt. I used to be like that before I moved to the United Arab Emirates, but this video will hopefully help you figure that all out. So if you want to know the differences between private and public schools in the United Arab Emirates, the video is in the description box below, so just click on the link. If you want to know more about charter schools, then also the link is in the description box, but this video is about the benefits. So whether or not you work in a public school or private schools, we're just going to focus on the benefits that you get from both schools. So tap in, subscribe, and let's get going. First arrived, I was really shocked. I didn't realize how many schools there were. So I did some research and I found out that in 2020 there were 640 public schools and then there were 580 private schools. That just gives you an idea of how many schools are in the country. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because every school is slightly different. So the benefits, the offers that they give is slightly different. So you're here, your colleague is right next door. You might have totally different contracts with different benefits. Unless your school is like a federation, then you know that everyone is probably getting something that's quite similar. But I want to first speak about salary. So the good thing about working in a public school is that you know that your salary is going to start off from 16,000 dirhams and go all the way up to 21 or 22,000 dirhams. But private schools can be a little bit sketchy sometimes. So if somebody offers you 3,000 or 4,000 dirhams, you need to know that that is not acceptable. So the average salary for private schools should be from maybe 10,000 going up to like 14,000 as a starting salary. So you can negotiate. So if you don't know how to negotiate, then start working on it. So you can present yourself to a school and you can tell them all the things that you are going to bring to the table. So if you don't know how to negotiate if you want a higher salary. So one of the benefits is that public schools, you know what you're getting. You're going to start from 16,000. And the salary in private schools is slightly lower compared to public schools, their starting salary, but the benefit is that you can negotiate your salary in private schools. My next point is medical insurance. So whether or not you're working in a private school or a public school, both types of schools, they do offer their staff medical insurance. So you can go and see a specialist, a general practitioner, a physiotherapist, you can go and see the dentist, and it's usually fully covered or it's partially covered. So that's a benefit in both schools. You will get medical insurance. My next point is all about gratuity. So gratuity is literally a school saying, thank you for being loyal, thank you for staying with us. Because you've stayed with us and you haven't broken your contract, we're going to give you a bonus. So the bonus is 1 month's additional salary at the end of the year. So by the time you finish your contract and you're ready to leave the school will give you your last salary and then they'll say, okay, here's your gratuity. You've been with us for 5 years, so here's 5 months salary in one go. So schools do offer gratuity, both public and private schools, but always read your contract and always know that if you break your contract, then you might not actually get a gratuity. Everyone always wants to know about housing, and to be honest, it's a very important issue because you're going to be an expat, you're moving to a new country, it's a different culture, you don't want the added stress of not knowing where you're living. So I'm going to start off by talking about private schools. So there's 3 options in private schools. So a private school might say, okay, here's your salary. We don't have our own accommodation, but we rent hotel apartments. So you can go and live in one of the hotel apartments for free. So that's option 1. The school might also say, okay, here's your salary and we have staff accommodation. So you can go and live in the staff accommodation for free. So that's option 2. And then the third option is a school will say, we don't have hotel apartments that we're renting and we don't have staff accommodation. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a housing allowance. So a housing allowance is literally the school giving you an additional little bit of money that goes into your salary at the end of the month, and the school wants you to then go and find your own accommodation. So that's private schools. When it comes to public schools, they give you a larger salary, but they don't give you accommodation. So you have to then go and find your own accommodation. But it's nothing to be worried about because depending on where you live in the country, housing can be really, really cheap, or it could be quite expensive if you're living in the city. but it's nothing to worry about. I feel as if housing is very reasonable in the United Arab Emirates. Lots of people, when they're moving to United Arab Emirates, they want to bring their families with them because the United Arab Emirates is a really safe country. So they want to bring their spouse, they want to bring their children. And if you're bringing your children, you want your children to be in school, and you probably want your children to be in school as soon as possible. So this is something that you need to speak to your employer about, because schools can give you free tuition fees for your child if they're going to a private school. Your school might say, hey, you know, you're a teacher in my school, so I'm going to give you free tuition for your children, for maybe the first child or maybe the second child. But you have to just make sure you read through your contract or you ask lots of questions. Some other schools might say, we won't give you free education for your child, free tuition fees, but we might give you a discount, and then they want you to pay for things like transport, cafeteria fees, book fees, school uniform, you know, those general fees that you'd have to pay for anyway. And then some other schools might not give you anything at all. So both schools, private and public, can offer this, but always ask loads of questions before you even arrive in the country. Let the school know exactly what's going on, who you're arriving in the country with, and figure out what kind of benefits you will get. The only reason I mentioned this is because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there are loads of different schools and every school operates slightly different. It all just depends on your contract that you get. To the end of the video, and on reflection, what's beneficial for me might not actually be beneficial for you. So somebody who is arriving in the country, they're relocating and they're single, compared to somebody that's relocating with their whole family and their children, what they consider to be beneficial will be different from each other. So the takeaway is that you have to really make sure you read through your contract, make sure that you ask all those important questions before you arrive in the country. You don't arrive and be totally shocked and you thought this was in your contract, that wasn't in your contract. Because as I mentioned at the start of the video, there are lots of different schools and they all offer benefits, but their benefits are all slightly different. So it's the end of the video, and I want to thank you for watching the video, especially if you've watched it to the very end. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video.